Welcome in. It's time for Talkin' Ball on Monday night. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. We're going to talk a little recruiting action. We're actually going to talk a little bit of other things going on as well with the Texas Longhorns sports. But we're really going to do more than anything. Whoa, wait a minute, Jerry.
No, so I had to fix that. Let's go. Had to fix that. Right.
We're going to talk. We're going to take y'all's questions. Anything and everything up for grabs tonight. Feel free to put your question into the chat. Matt, our producer, will help us bring that up when we get a chance here. Jerry, Longhorn coaches back out on the road. Steve Sarkisian was not on the road today. Still under the weather, it looks like, but the Texas coach is out on the road and putting out some offers to some juniors, going to be seniors here in 2025.
Yeah, Drake Quinn, a edge kid at Woodward Academy in Atlanta. I'd actually DM'd with him a little bit last week, and he had said Texas had made contact. I figured they may come by this week when choice was Kenny Baker in the Atlanta area. So Atlanta Woodward Academy, a 4-star edge prospect that his teammate Blake Stewart, the safety, was at junior day over the weekend. So we'll see if Drake Quinn gets on campus this spring. We'll see there. And then Sonay, defensive lineman from the Blue Ridge School up in Virginia, moved to the States a few years ago. One of the top D linemen in the country. And we've talked about this when Texas made the offers in North Carolina. I don't think this means Texas is going to start recruiting Virginia at all. But what it does mean is they're going to find the best D linemen in this class wherever they are, because it's not a great class nationally on D line like it normally is around the country. So they have to go find them where they are. And that took them to Blue Ridge School in the Blue Ridge Parkway area today, I think, to offer Sonay, who's one of the best in the country and has offers from, Georgia, Alabama, you name it. He's got the offers, Ohio State. But he is one of the top guys in the country. And Kenny Baker thinks he's a really talented player. If he made that trip to see him, then get back to Atlanta.
1 week after going into North Carolina, by the way, to recruit players. So up and down Georgia, North Carolina, and Virginia, the Longhorns. They also offered a couple of 2027 players, one from Nashville, defensive back. But let's move forward onto some other topics. A guy went in the portal earlier today, Cam Camper, originally from Lancaster. Jerry, is Texas interested in the wide receiver from Boise who went into the portal today? Thanks, Juan, for the super chat. Cam Camper, originally from Lancaster. Jerry signed with Indiana, I believe, out of high school, transferred to Boise. He's not one of those real flyer types, though.
No.
He's more of a possession guy. I think he had 40 or 50 catches for Boise State. Now, do you think Texas is going to go after him? Is he one of those guys? Or are we thinking Texas is going to wait for somebody that's faster in the portal?
Unless they switch gears, they want speed. Unless they switch gears. I think it would have to be a pretty elite guy that's not a speed guy. So we'll see. Obviously, we haven't heard anything on that. By the way, some people asked this morning about the Notre Dame center, Coogan. We haven't heard anything materialize there. Kyle Flood's on the road recruiting. So the offensive line coach for Texas is on the road and not in Austin right now, by the way.
So we have not, basically what Jerry means by that is we have not heard any kind of follow-up where that would be tell us or lend us to believe that Texas is pushing there. Michigan, Illinois, and South Carolina were the other teams involved. Jerry, Hero Canoe, the defensive lineman out of Ohio State, visited Texas over the weekend, then made his way to Florida last night, visiting Florida at this time. Texas remains involved based on what I'm being told, but we do not have a further update than that. We do believe Texas is looking to get an answer from Canoe sometime this week, hopefully as soon as Wednesday, so that he can enroll in class. We will see, though, if the Longhorns get the call over a team like the University of Florida. Canoe, Jerry, originally from Germany, but played his high school ball in California at Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic. You hear anything else on Hero Canoe as of today that would be new for the audience?
I haven't heard anything today because obviously he's on that visit to Florida. And when he left Texas, I thought there was from what I heard, there was some confidence that Texas thought they could win the recruitment. But anytime guys are still taking visits, we'll have to wait and see after this Florida visit concludes where things are at, who has the confidence after this visit, and is this going to be the end of the visit process? I would suspect it is, but we can't say that for sure.
Correct. That it's one of those where we just don't know enough right now. Josie, I want to thank OTF for all they do. I know I troll Jerry a lot. I think you do it every day. But man, y'all do a great job, and I'm grateful to OTF. We're grateful for you guys as well. Thank y'all for joining us here on this journey, talking a little Longhorn football. Jerry, this one from Todd Lacey. Who is the next commitment for Texas for the class of 2026?
Well, I mean, I can't, look, I can tell you, I think Texas probably leads for, and normally it's your offensive line guys that come off the board after your quarterbacks or come off the board earliest. So, I think there's 2 or 3 guys that Texas is in a pretty good position for. I think 1 or 2 of those guys could do something in February or March here. And I think I think a couple of timelines got pushed back because Sark wasn't at the junior day. He was sick. So those conversations couldn't be had if somebody was really close to shutting that thing down and going public. So I think that's going to push it back to it's going to be a dead period starting February 3rd. So it's going to push it into March is what it's looking like, unless somebody just wakes up one day and calls Sark and said, I'm ready to be done with this process. Since Sark could not meet with those guys at junior day, I suspect we're going to see anybody that thought about recruiting or thought about committing, push that back in the March around the spring practice visit. But look, it's subject to change. But I do think there's a couple of guys that that Texas could have went out for earlier than June. I'll say that.
Okay, so basically, your feeling is they're in the neighborhood on some guys, but given Sark and his inability to hang out at junior day on Saturday, we may be able to. It may be taking some time, I guess, is the way to figure this all out.
And Bobby, and part of it, I think we need to hit on this. Look, the NIL portion really hasn't started at all. So it's anybody wanting a lot of these guys or certain guys to commit early. The NIL portion of these recruitments hasn't really begun yet. So I just don't think that's the way these things go nowadays. Not with the highly ranked guys.
Yep. All right. We've got other questions and topics to hit, but first I want to say thank you to our sponsor of Talkin' Ball. That's Dr. Brett Robin, the former Longhorn running back. He's now an orthopedic doctor at the Austin Orthopedic Institute. He is sponsoring On Texas Football. He knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic specialist, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000, and get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. Hats off to Dr. Brett Robin for his successful career as well, and his time as a Longhorn running back. Really enjoy the fact that he's part of On Texas Football with us. Hey, here's a question. This one from Sports Masochist that we can comment on here a little bit, Jerry. I'm not in a position to participate in Texas One Fun, but hope we go blank with Arch, Colin, and Justice. Sark has us in a better spot than Matt. They already are going all the way in right now at Texas One Fun. That doesn't mean they couldn't use more help, and Texas couldn't use more help. But, Jerry, to say that Texas is highly competitive in NIL would be an understatement. You agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, it's going to be a top 3-4 NIL roster every year. And so the guys that Texas feels like they have to keep, they're keeping those guys. And because just think about how many rumors there were when in this last portal window after the Texas season concluded. Oh, A&M fans. There was one guy that covers A&M and said the thing was about to blow up in Austin. Nobody left. Nobody
Yep.
left. And then also think about, somebody asked about Carnell Tate, all the rumors about Carnell Tate. It's kind of like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham last year. All these guys, the rumors, these guys are going to leave. They're going to leave. These programs are keeping the guys they have to have, by and large.
They are, because, look, I've said this till the cows come home. Money is the same color everywhere.
Yeah.
So if why would Carnell Tate leave if he can get this exact same amount at Ohio State, where he just had a good freshman year, to go to Texas? If it's appreciably different,
right,
that would be one thing. But these guys, the true great players, the numbers aren't that different from one place to the next. No. And you're not going to make a decision over 25 or 50 grand in difference to uproot your family, etc.
Especially in a kid like Tate, he can go pro after next year. So it's just the vast majority of these guys at these power programs are going to stay, because those programs can't afford to lose those guys. I mean, look, all the numbers being thrown out about Jeremiah Smith. Could you imagine the backlash if he left Ohio State by the Ohio State alumni and fan base? You can't let these guys leave.
Right. And they didn't. And plus, not to mention the fact that he's a phenomenal player. All right, Cameron Parker, what's going on with Coach PK and Coach Choice? PK does not go on the road. So while don't read into anything him not being on the road recruiting, Coach Choice was on the road today, Jerry, and it's been on the road the entire time.
Yeah.
I think that they're asking about, Cameron's asking here about potential coaching changes, if they might be candidates elsewhere. PK is a name that's been kind of blindly thrown out at Ohio State. Tashard Choice with the Dallas Cowboys as a running backs coach. Look, this would not be Tashard Choice's first opportunity to be the Dallas Cowboys running back coach, yet he's at the University of Texas right now. And I will say this. I think he will be paid more at the University of Texas than he would with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because his ability as a recruiter actually pays him more than just simply coaching running backs in the NFL. We just saw a coordinator at Penn State get more money than any coordinator in the NFL, $3.1 million a year. So I think that people missing the fact there about Choice and maybe some others. As far as PK is concerned, I've heard nothing that lends to the idea that he might be looking to go elsewhere. Jerry, you hearing anything in that regard?
I haven't. I have not anything substantial. The interesting thing with Ohio State is, does he hire somebody that's similar to Knowles? I mean, Iowa State runs 3 high. I mean, do you keep it with what was just your most successful? Now, players change, personnel changes, so we'll see what he does. But by the way, I mean, he may lose Chip Kelly to the NFL as well. So
yep.
That could be some major hires coming for Ohio State. But it'll be interesting to see what Ryan Day does, because his players know a 3 high system and they're comfortable in it now, especially the younger players that have been there a year as well. So does he kind of find somebody that fits that for him and fits his personnel right now? We'll see. I think that'll be interesting to see what Ryan Day does.
Also, a question coming in from Todd Lacey asking about, does Sark add any positions to the football staff, such as special teams analyst? We do believe those things are going to happen, whether they happen immediately or in 3 weeks or a month. They just need to happen probably before spring ball. So, Todd, I think that the answer is yes. Me and Jerry, and from hearing behind the scenes, there are going to be additions. The timeline is, well, they just need to be here before spring ball. So keep that in mind.
And look, and part of that's waiting for the dust to settle with the NFL, the college coaching carousel, if that's affected by these NFL jobs. See who's out there. I mean, look, the both of the guys that Sark has hired, Scotty Hazelton was part of a staff that was let go, right? So it's going to be something with opportunity, or some younger coach that's on the come that for a year would be, no, these are pretty much, Bobby, 1-year jobs is what they are. These guys aren't taking any of these jobs to be here long term. And Sark and the staff knows that. So it's kind of, you wait for the dust to settle. You see where things are at after all the NFL jobs hires are made, all the college hires are made. See where the dust settles and kind of go from there, and see who those best fits are, knowing that these are pretty much 1-year rental coaches is what they are.
Yep, absolutely. Jerry, switching gears here to a little bit of recruiting news. KD35, Chase Calicut, the safety athlete out of Houston's North Shore. Some people are crystal balling or RPMing him to Texas. You went by North Shore, I think it was last week, to talk to Calicut. What did you come away with that thinking? And do you think that this weekend's Junior Day just helped solidify Texas as his front runner?
Yeah, I think that's a recruitment where there's a lot of Texas fans around him within the family. And the question again, I also want to go back to this. Look, the NIL portion of these recruitments hasn't begun yet. So I think that's important to note. But I think Texas is a favorite for Calicut. Now, the question is, who's Texas going to push for? Because they're going to get more guys on campus coming up in March around spring practice. Who are they really going to push for out of this group? I think that's going to be interesting. This is Chase Calicut. There's a thought at North Shore, around the North Shore program, that Calicut could even end up being a linebacker one day. That he is a big frame kid that can end up being a 225, 230-pound outside backer that plays closer to the line of scrimmage versus deep in the field in coverage. So I think that'll be interesting to kind of to see where does he project, and look at what will Texas, who else will they get on campus in March at the safety position? I think is going to be big.
Well, if
Aaron Bradshaw and Calicut on campus this past weekend for Junior Day.
Yeah, and he may. Hey, look, Jerry, he may end up being a linebacker, but Jelani McDonald was a tweener. That they started at linebacker, ends up at big nickel and or safety. You know what I mean? Those guys, as long as they have the athleticism, you got to give them a chance somehow. All right, this one coming in from Juan Garza. Good one here, Juan. Jerry, Bobby, interesting. You see a lot of top prospects, and their top schools include SMU these days. Top 10 or 12 or 5, whatever. They're making a noise. I agree with him. Jerry, SMU is breaking through right now ahead of, frankly, Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, and in some instances, A&M. What do you think of that?
I was going to say they have a stronger NIL than Oklahoma does. In that, they're an issue. They can be a thorn for Oklahoma and DFW. If Oklahoma doesn't get this thing turned around, we talked about it. Is SMU the third program in the state of Texas? Do they have a chance to be the third program? Obviously Texas, then Texas A&M. And A&M is going to beat SMU on 18, 19, and 20 kids. Let's be real. We'd be saying the same thing about Texas. But can they be a thorn for Oklahoma is the question. Because if Oklahoma, if it gets tightened on them in DFW more than ever, because A&M under Elko's trying to make more of a dent in DFW, Texas obviously doing tremendous in DFW. You still have a few guys, top guys will disperse and leave the state where they go to LSU, Oregon, Ohio State, wherever. Those are going to happen every class. Can SMU put a dent in Oklahoma and DFW? That's what I'm watching for in recruiting, not SMU competing with Texas or Texas A&M at the end of the day on top guys.
Well, I think
Oklahoma and Ole Miss.
I think some OU fans cringe when you said that SMU may have a better NIL situation than OU. All right, Forrest Eldridge with this super chat. Yeah. With all the talk about Jermaine Bishop and myself being from Willis, it got me wondering, who's the best player not named Bishop or Lagway from Willis? Can y'all remember?
I got one, and it's a great one.
It was a running back from Willis, Jerry. And I went by to see him. It had to be the early to mid 90s. My goodness. I do not remember Forrest's name.
It's D.D. Terry.
No, somebody else.
D.D. Terry played in the league, but he went to Sam Houston. He was undrafted, played like 3 years.
I cannot remember the guy's name. I'll try to remember Forrest, but I think it was in the mid-90s.
Eric Hatchett?
No. It was about the time that Rock Cartwright came out of college.
Somebody said Lagway Sr. That's a pretty good one.
It may have been. That's probably who that's who it was.
Baylor. Yeah.
Sorry, still last name Lagway. Goodness gracious. That's what happens. Hey, Jerry, this one, Jay Dobbs. Do you think Texas and OU have exchanged positions in college football from about a decade ago? Seems like Sark and the Longhorns are that far ahead of Venables and the Sooners. I'm loving it. I think they exchanged positions from about 5 or 6 years ago, actually. It's more recent than just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe the couple of years where Charlie Strong went sub 500. So that's right at 10 years. Was that 15 and 16? Is that right? If I'm mistaken.
Somebody Cisco Diaz said NIL helped, and I agree with that.
NIL helped. Look, Jerry, I know you said that what you did about NIL and OU, but they're not bereft. I mean, they have money, and they just used it on the wrong pieces. I mean, they made the right move with Dylan Gabriel, and then inexplicably let him leave. I mean,
what's crazy to me, it's amazing how many times colleges do this. Whether it's firing or somebody leaves, and this may have been a special circumstance, but I was complaining Lincoln Riley's teams can't play defense, they can't stop anybody. Okay, well, you're in the playoffs, and you had guys winning Heismans. Now what do you have? You had to go the opposite direction because it wasn't working. You were in the playoffs, man. You had Heisman winners. You had first-round quarterbacks. You had some of the greats that came through Oklahoma that played the quarterback position. And then when Lincoln Riley, and that one hurt the way Lincoln left, but then what did you do? You went the opposite direction. And it wasn't broke. But in a weird way, they acted like it was broken. And this is an offensive world and offensive games in sports.
I just want to say this. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Spencer Rattler even.
For a year. And he's in the NFL still. You look at that and very interesting, in my opinion. They had that run of quarterbacks that people just fail. I think Texas fans don't want to give them credit for at some level because Texas fans don't want to give OU any credit whatsoever, but that was a hell of a run at quarterback.
Yes.
Texas can have a similar run right now, in my opinion. We'll see if that's the case at all, because I think he's tremendous. I think that Texas right now just really set up well at QB. A couple other questions here coming in. Thank you all for joining us, by the way, on the Monday night Talkin' Ball episode. Myself, Jerry Hamilton, with you guys here to the top of the hour. A couple other questions. Todd Lacey says, any truth to the Expos claiming Ohio State operated at a $37 million shortfall? I saw the post. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't have any inkling into the inner circle of the Ohio State operation. But I will say this, if they operated at a $37 million shortfall, it was a managed shortfall. I can assure you that because they are one of the highest grossing revenue college sports programs there is. And what I mean by that is they could have spent $37 million on an additional facility, and somehow that gets put into the shortfall of a cash flow situation. I don't think Ohio State lost $37 million. I'll just put it that way. Not with what everything is at these days. Cisco Diaz, does Ohio State try to poach a Texas assistant for their DC position? We just talked about this with Pete Kwiatkowski, and we do not believe that he is the object of their desire. Could we be wrong? Maybe, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. Longhorns, Jerry, how about this one? We say we want a more downhill inside zone running scheme going forward. What did we run when we had Bijan? Here's my caveat to that. You didn't just have Bijan. You also had Roshan Johnson. And he definitely ran inside more than he ran outside. That's what I think that people are sitting here saying, oh, well, we don't need to just run inside. We need the guys to go. Yes, but you have to have variety.
Yeah.
To hit at people. And Texas didn't really have run game variety this year.
I mean, if you look at Ohio State with Henderson and Judkins, two different types of backs. Yes, they're tremendous, two different types of backs. Penn State, Singleton, and Katron Allen, two totally different types of backs. And I think that is the thing is that Texas needs to Texas, to your point, needs that run game variety, needs that running back variety. And that's why Sark looks to sign two different backs in each class. They're not looking to sign two of the same type of back in each class. Now, things have to look, they had a bad run health-wise this year at that position. When you think about it, we all talk about Baxter, yes, but Christian Clark was also that guy, frame-wise. He was an inside zone guy that could bounce and skip cut out to the outside, but he was more of that inside zone guy with his frame too. That's what he was thought of coming out of high school, with excellent jump cut, skip cut ability around that 220-pound frame. He was up to 215, 217 pounds. So they lost two of those guys to injury. You don't know where Christian Clark would have gone this season. So they, to your point, Bobby, they lost their variety possibility through injury this year.
Just a dude here. Are Andrew Makuba and Vernon Broughton recovering from injuries? Is that why they pulled themselves from the Senior Bowl? Potentially. I don't know that they played 16 games. Usually when the Senior Bowl rolls around, you've had a good 3 weeks off after having 4 weeks off in December.
Yeah.
You've played one game in 7 weeks. Texas has played 4 games in the last month and a half. So it's a little bit different. And I think that some of these guys are simply pulling themselves because they want to get fully healthy and ready for the combine and give it their best go. Barron Sorrell showed up at the Senior Bowl today, Jerry. 6'3.5", it sounds like, 250-ish.
That's good height for him.
So we're excited about that. I believe Alfred Collins may end up going to the Senior Bowl now as well, waiting to see if that actually happens.
Hey, Bobby, we need to mention one other thing real quick. Fall workout started today. I think Matthew has the picture of Arch taking over a leadership role at the University of Texas, which that officially started today around the first fall practice. So this is Arch has patiently waited his turn, and now he takes on a leadership role of this program along with Michael Taff and others. But he officially takes on a leadership position in this program today with the beginning of fall workout. So for those that are wondering when fall workouts were started, I think we mentioned that this morning. That was today. And there's your first look.
Elijah Perez, how has AJ Milwee never moved on? Seems like he'd be a prime target for our program. AJ Milwee came to Texas after being an off-field assistant at Alabama under Steve Sarkisian. He is now the quarterbacks coach at Texas. Has been a key cog in the machine, especially as a recruiter. Jerry, I don't know that he's had an opportunity that's excited him to move on. He wants to. His next stop is either to go call plays somewhere at a big institution,
yes,
or be a head coach at a smaller school,
a MAC or somewhere.
He probably just hasn't had that opportunity yet.
Well, he's in an interesting spot because he hasn't been a play caller.
Not yet. Well, he wasn't Toledo.
Not yet, but I mean for Texas, and he's not going to be, right. So he is part of the script builder and the plan builder and the scheme builder, and he's the quarterback coach. But how much is he going to grow in that regard of what people have asked about at Texas is the question. because he's not going to be a play caller unless Sark did the thing that nobody thinks is going to happen, right? So where is his growth? To your point, it may just have to be Texas has a lot of success. Toledo offers you a head coaching job or something, and you jump on it and you go run your race. But I'm not sure he's in a position to command some of the offers and job possibilities that I think the question was kind of asking. The best way I could put it. By the way, Sark, Flood, Milwee, they're all scheduled to be in Plantation, Florida Thursday to meet with Diabell and Raja Bell and family members.
Hope
assuming Sark is healthy enough to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Yarbrough, how does the class of 2026 compare to the class of 2025? It's always interesting how every year the classes differ by position. It's hard to say that nationally in particular, Jerry. What about in the state, though? What's stronger this year in state maybe than last year and weaker perhaps even?
By the way, JW Crunch, yeah, I meant winter workouts. I guess I said fall practice, winter workouts. 26 in the state of Texas. Linebackers solid. Offensive line's really good. But I think offensive line's good every year in Texas right now. I can't remember last year it wasn't good. Running back, and this may not affect Texas, but it affects the state as a whole. I think running back depth is solid. I mean, you got a guy like Christian Rhodes popping up. You got the running back at Lancaster, Isaiah Lee, who was on campus, but Texas didn't offer. There's some depth at running back. Every year, wide receivers. I mean, even when Boobie Feaster reclasses to 26 officially, that just adds another really good receiver to the crop in state. Defensive line, interior defensive line, not much depth there. That's why you're seeing Texas offer North Carolina guys, Virginia guys. I mean, they're really having to stretch out and cast a wide net at defensive line outside of Jamion Winfield in state right now. Corday Houston's pretty good prospect up at South Oak Cliff. Tiki Hola, pretty good prospect at Bastrop. But those national D linemen, those Myron Charles level guys, that Sharma guys, outside of Jamion Winfield, I don't see him in the state right now. Not the guys can't be good players and develop. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying right now for a Texas, what they're looking for in-state D-line, interior D-line is not have a lot of depth. I think edge may not have great depth, but has some good players at the top. But I think safety is really good in Texas this year. I think corners like wide receiver, DB's like wide receiver. It's going to be good every year in Texas. But I think offensive line is a strength, and I think the linebacker group in the state's actually going to be sneaky, very good.
Good stuff. Talking about one of those positions was safety. Jerry, this from KD35. Did Donovan Webb make it in Saturday? Never heard his name mentioned.
No, he did not. He went up to Oklahoma to dry tears after Knowles turned him down.
Oh, boy. All right, here we go. J Dobbs, I honestly feel guilty about thinking PK was a poor fit at Texas after his first season. You're not alone, J Dobbs.
No.
Absolutely not. He turned it around like nobody's business. Given the time, he's built a very good D for the Horns. I will say this. The thing that categorically changed from year 3 to year 4, I always felt like PK's defense his first 3 years was too let him pick you apart, like piece by piece. They could kind of move you down the field. And all of a sudden, when he gets a pass rush, it doesn't feel like that anymore. Then all of a sudden, the walls are closing in on the quarterback, and Texas is creating more interceptions. What did Texas end the season with? 19 interceptions?
I think so. But my thing with anybody, and I was one of them. After Kansas scored 57, I was like, I'm in 100% prove it mode. After Kansas went into DKR and scored 57, I was in. You're 100. I don't care about the past resume. I don't care. 100% prove it at that point, because that's a lot of points to give up at home to Kansas, and that was an ugly. There were some really ugly times defensively, and look, this thing. Obviously Texas has got a bunch of great players, but this thing turns for me when Texas start getting after the quarterback. That's when that's in especially in PK's scheme, because he has a lower blitz rate. than a lot. So if your front four or your 5-man pressures, they have to be elite guys. And Texas got to the elite level this year. I actually think next year is going to be the best pass rush team at Texas that I've seen maybe in my time covering this. In the game's changed, obviously, but on par with any of the best that Mac had. And I think this team will probably have the most sacks Texas teams had in my years doing this next year. I think they're going to be that elite rushing the quarterback.
All right, we got more to go to and get to here on tonight's winning tribe, I was going to say, on Texas football, sponsored by Dr. Brett Robin. Let's move forward, Jerry, and get your thoughts on this conversation here. And it's one that we've talked about a little bit. Who are your breakout players for spring? Who are your breakout players for spring? Who do I think they're going to be, or who do I want them to be? By the way, that may I want to see Jordan Washington break out. I don't necessarily think he's necessarily going to be ready to do that, though, in the same way that you might think. Not that he won't end up being the starter or potential. I don't know that he's there yet physically. I want to see what happens. Other positions, I'm thinking of guys like Jelani McDonald for this, where he goes from he has a role at Texas to where all of a sudden maybe he's a frontline guy, somebody that the other team has to worry about a little bit. I think of that. I wonder if
the chat at my two guys, Alex January and Santana Wilson.
Okay.
Alex January is one for me at the D line. I think Texas wanted to get him more snaps late in the season last year, but they just had so many experienced players that were playing at a high level that there just weren't the snaps there for Alex January, even though he got in some games. I think there's a thought that he's going to end up being really good in year two. And I was going to say Santana but it's got to be a corner for me. They need a corner to jump to kind of have a great spring, whether that's Kobe Black, whether that's Santana Wilson. They're going to need, I think maybe it's a freshman. I mean, Manny Muhammad came in and turned heads in that spring of his freshman year. I think corner is going to be very important to have somebody kind of bust out of the pack this spring.
How about Parker Livingstone? Keep that name under your hat for a little bit. Syracuse on, will Jonah Williams play this year, or is he going to be rehabbing longer than originally thought? Jerry?
No, I think he'll be fine to play this year as long as he stays healthy. I think he's just he's still rehabbing that injury, and it's keeping him out of baseball right now. But he was never going to go through spring football practice, so I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise, because anytime you crack a clavicle and you're a safety and a physical player, that kind of worries me a little bit for you long term. But he was never going to go through spring football, but he should be good for fall practice unless he has a major setback. I don't think he's that far off from getting going in baseball.
All right, keep going here. Interesting question from Woodcrest. Jerry, Bob, what's the reason why the state of New York lacks football talent? That's what I was one is their best skill guys play hoops, but it's just not a football state, Bobby. It's like they have some of the coolest high school stadiums or practice fields ever because they're literally in the city, right? It's kind of cool looking out the Hudson or whatever, I think it was. But it's a basketball city. It's a basketball area. Your top skill guys, they're all on the playgrounds hooping, man. They all have basketball dreams there. But it's also just, Bobby, it's not a setup for football. It's not a setup for successful football. I would say this, having been to schools up there, they give the same amount of facilities to football as they do basketball.
Yeah.
And football takes 22 players, 11 on each side. Basketball takes, 8 total, probably.
Yeah.
It is a resource-driven sport. And I just feel like state of New York, there are places in upstate New York that you will find really good football players. Absolutely. Not a ton, though. It has, ever since I've been doing this, it's never been this fertile ground where you get more than 10 to 15 good players a year. It's not even despite their population base. You got to remember, a lot of that population base is in New York City, also, and there's not too many football teams in Manhattan. I'll just try to put it that way. All right, questions here. JD3, Bobby, what important dates should fans look forward to get us through the dog days of no football? Well, next Wednesday is signing day. We don't think Texas is going to sign anyone in that signing day, but it's the second signing day, first Wednesday in February. That'll be something I'm interested, Jerry, and somebody asked this question on the board, whether or not Steve Sarkisian will actually do a signing day press conference, because he was unable to do it on the first signing day, Jerry, because they were involved in the college football playoffs. So that's one. The next area that we're really interested in is when spring ball starts. We do not have that date yet, JD. Then we believe the spring game, I think, will be either on the 19th of April or the 26th. Waiting to find that out.
I was looking at the NFL Combine date, too, for everybody.
Yeah, NFL Combine, obviously, and draft. But
Combine's February 27th through March 2nd. And by the way, so on recruiting, too, the month of February is the tough one because it's a dead period from February 3rd through March 2nd. So dead period in football recruiting. That's why everybody's out this week, ending January. The Texas staff actually has, I believe, a few days off in February, starts giving the guys off, maybe a week in February as well, based on what I heard Saturday around the junior day. So I think those guys will be out of the office for a week in February at some point as well.
They need to.
Yes.
I mean, those guys worked hard this year. They need to. Some other names that came up about who they expect to have good springs. Ryan Niblett from Salty Q, Ty Anthony Smith.
Yes, that's a great one. Diaz. That's a great one.
Yeah, those are guys that I think that we've all talked about at some level as well. All right,
Bobby, I don't know what you think. I think Ty Anthony Smith is going to be I think he's going to be a hellacious player. And you think about 10 more pounds on him playing in the mid 220s. I watch out for Ty Anthony Smith. I think Texas really has something there. That's why Bobby and I are broken records. Sark and their recruiting plan, they could have taken another linebacker instead of Ty Anthony Smith 2 years ago. They literally said, we're only going to take one linebacker, and it's either going to be Justin Williams if we can pry him away from Georgia, or Ty Anthony Smith if we can pry him away from A&M. And it wasn't looking good on either until Jimbo got the axe in College Station. Then Ty Anthony ended up in the class. But you know what? They were going to take one linebacker. They could have taken somebody that they didn't think was as good a player as Ty Anthony Smith to get a guy in the boat, but they didn't do it. And that's what we've seen time and time again. I want to say this about Junior Day because there was some on ontexasfootball.com. It's going to be a fun cycle, guys. I'm excited to do it with you guys. People are, reacting to guys visiting elsewhere over the weekend. But I looked at the Texas signing class in 2025, the number one ranked class. 8 of those guys were not at Texas Junior Day. 8 guys. Cade Phillips is at the Junior Day, didn't even get offered at the Junior Day. So that's 9, essentially, that were not there or were not offered after the first Junior Day. So just keep that in mind, the way Sark and these guys approach this. They're out there offering a D lineman in Virginia for the first time by this staff. 4 guys in North Carolina, first time by this staff. Chris Jackson was at Destrehan today to see Jabari Mack. He's going to go see Tristan Keys in Hattiesburg, the 5-star receiver. Aaron Gregory in Douglasville, Naeem Burrows in Jacksonville. The Texas staff is going to be Jeff Banks was in Brunswick today, seeing Hazy Kent, the 6'6", 290-pound tight end, if he's not an offensive tackle. That put
Brunswick, Georgia, by the way.
Yeah, Brunswick, Georgia. Yes. Kyle Flood was in Pennsylvania today, seeing one of the top 2 or 3 2027 offensive linemen in the country. I think he's going to see Luke Waffley in Jersey tomorrow. Texas staff is going to be all over Florida the rest of this week. They're going to be at IMG later this week, Sarasota, to see Elijah Gooden, I believe one of the top D linemen in the country. They're out there taking swings right now. They took their big old Easton bat and they're taking swings right now to see who they can get in on. So just keep that in mind with all these junior days. The importance of the junior day is there. And that we lost the juice with Sark being sick. But just remember, just look at that class that just signed the number 1 class and think about which names weren't there for junior day last year. And it's the whole reason the class ended up being number 1, the guys that weren't there.
A couple other names came out, Jerry, that people were talking about who needed to step up or we think might emerge. Randy Jones and Jose Rodriguez both said Kobe Black. David Rawls asked about Zena Umeozula. Then we got Ryan Wingo going to look great with Arch. Steve Henderson talking about Daniel Cruz. There's quite a bit here. Said is asking, do you guys have a time frame for how long Colton Vosick will be out? 24/7 Sports reporting that he is having labrum surgery. Jerry, I don't know that we have an idea quite yet how long he's expected to be out, do we?
No, but the interesting thing is that's what I was going to lead into with Zena. Zena now is going to get more reps this spring. So with injury comes opportunity for a young player. Zena is about to have a lot of opportunity this spring. We'll see if he takes it and runs with it, right? I mean, Colton Vosick, tremendous player if they can ever keep him healthy. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. But now Zena's going to get more reps, see what he does with it. It's going to be a great opportunity for him this spring. A kid that redshirted, we haven't seen. We know he's built up that body. But the spring is about to get a lot more reps for Zena. See what he does with it.
Before we ask one final question for the night, I want to say thank you again to Dr. Brett Robin at Austin Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements for anybody and everybody of any age. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call at 512-856-1000 and get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. That's 512-856-1000, accepting new patients today. All right, Jerry, this one's going to be our final question.
Hey, I had an update. I've been waiting on this, but multiple members of the Texas staff spent multiple hours with Tyler Atkinson and his family, the 5-star linebacker from Grayson, today. And we knew that was going to happen. We think Tashard Choice will go see Amari Latimer tomorrow. He was at Buford, but the multiple members of the Texas staff spent multiple hours in home visit with Tyler Atkinson, the 5-star linebacker from Grayson, and his family. So if anybody was wondering how bad Texas wants Tyler Atkinson, you don't have to worry about it. They want him back.
Salty Q, we'll have more on that in the morning on Texas Football for Coffee and Football, Jerry. Last question here. Do you foresee a class with more out-of-state commitments or signees? Let's not just commitments. Let's take it beyond commitments because, there might be 5 players committed at one point in time and 4 of them are out. What about signees? More out-of-state signees than in-state signees. That's never happened before. In my following the Longhorns, that my 30-plus years covering it professionally, that has never happened.
I got to tell you, Salty Q, this is actually a very interesting question. Running back, probably split. The quarterback's already out of state. Running back, probably split. Wide receiver, I could see a scenario where if they take 4, it could be split or out of state by 3-1, potentially. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. Tight end, it's the kid out of Modern Day. If they get him, that's out of state. Offensive line will swing the numbers in state. But I'm here to tell you, as good a class it is, offensive line in state, Sam Utu, Orange Lutheran, Texas has a legit shot. Cody Green committed to Oregon. I think Texas will get him on campus and have a shot. Brett Colajay, the guard at IMG, Texas still recruiting. Kenye Pepe, the other guard tackle at IMG, Texas is still recruiting. I think they're going to see him Wednesday. Samuel Rosenborough, the offensive lineman from Clearwater, Florida, Texas is going to go by and see him. So while the numbers lean in-state on the offensive line, I'm not sure it's going to be totally in-state with that group. Then you get the defense. Defensive line, if they go 4, it's at least going to be split out of state. Edge, it'll probably split out of state. Linebacker, that one's where it could shift in-state if they take 3, maybe 2 in-state, 1 out. But we'll have to see. Defensive back, I think Texas is in a good spot for Lott and Jermaine Bishop Jr. Somebody asked how he's related to Michael Bishop. Sorry, I didn't forget your question. That's his nephew. That's Michael Bishop's nephew. Jermaine Bishop Sr. was the tailback when Michael Bishop was the quarterback at Willis. Obviously, they are brothers. Safety, at least split, maybe leans in state. Salty Cube, that's a hell of a question. It's going to be close in this class, I think.
That would be a first. That would be absolutely a first. All right, that's going to do it for tonight's Talkin' Ball. Thanks to Jerry Hamilton. Thanks to our producer, Matt Hutchinson, as well as Dr. Brett Robin for sponsoring. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. We got a lot of stuff going on right now trying to get ready for the the Senior Bowl. CJ is out there. We've got coffee and football tomorrow morning, as well as the recruiting breakdown coming. Make sure you check us out online, too, at ontexasfootball.com. Right now, we're running a special. If you'd like to get all the news you need to know between these shows, make sure you check out ontexasfootball.com and use promo code HOWE, HOWE, to get a subscription for just $39.95 for 1 year. That's a whole year. It's the best deal out there on the market. Also, I will add, as it relates to that promo code goes away Tuesday night at midnight. So we're about 25 hours, 26 hours away for that occurring. All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for tonight's Talkin' Ball episode. You guys have a good one. Hook 'em.